Hello everyone, this is Apostate Imam, and this is our fourth English live stream with Bill Warner, who is a great critic of Islam, and he lives in France, and he is a great French critic, and everyone knows him, especially in India. He is pretty popular among those who don't like Islam. And he's a great scholar. He wrote several books, and even his books are taught in several schools, especially in right wing schools, where people want to learn that how Islam is a threat for humanity, for our society, for our future progress, and why we should not practice or follow this cult. So let me add Bill Warner. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
So many people were asking me that when I'm going to invite Bill Warner on my channel, and so many people were waiting for you. And today, we would like to know that why you decide to criticize Islam. Since I'm an ex-Muslim, I left Islam in year 2012, and I know that why this religion is dangerous for society. But still, it is really difficult to convince non-Muslims that why Islam is so dangerous, because people only see sugar-coated Islam by Muslim scholars. Even Muslims don't know what their religion really is, and they
That's
are not
true.
aware of their own scriptures. So the floor is yours, sir. You could tell people that why you decide to criticize Islam and how Islam is dangerous for our society, for our future constitution, for our future, for democracy, why it is not good.
Well, my interest in Islam started when I'm an 80-year-old man. And my interest in Islam, of all things, started when I was 30 years old. I studied Sufism, but Sufism was not satisfactory to me because there were some things they didn't talk about. I didn't know what they were at the time, but I sensed there was something hidden. The things that were hidden from me as a student were jihad primarily and Sharia. So then I did, only later when I was maybe 20 years later, I became a college professor and I had many Muslim students. Now, I believe if you want to understand somebody, you need to understand how they think. And they made it very clear that at least one in particular, that they thought what was in the Quran was the truth. So I decided, well, I want to read this truth. And so I read the Quran. It disturbed me. And then I read the life of Muhammad. That disturbed me even more. So as a consequence, when 9/11 happened in America, many people called me to say, you said something was going to happen. How did you know? I said, well, I read their playbook. And their playbook is found in the Quran, the Sirah, and the Hadith. The Sirah is the life of Muhammad, and the Hadith are his traditions. And when Osama bin Laden called America to Islam, I knew that we were going to get attacked because Muhammad, before he would attack anybody, would call them to Islam. So when Osama bin Laden called us to Islam, I told many of my friends, I says, we're going to get whacked and it's going to be bad. I didn't know it was going to be on September 11th. I didn't know that it was going to be at the World Trade Towers. But it is interesting that Muhammad's favorite time to attack was a sneak attack on an economic target and done in the morning. So all of this fit exactly. And I realized after the World Trade Towers came down that I lived in a nation that didn't know anything about Islam at all. They didn't know a Muslim from a Buddhist, from a Hindu, from anything else. And so as a scientist, I wanted to make what I call the DNA or the source code available. That is, I wanted to know what did Muhammad say and do, and what did Allah say. So that's when I started my study of Islam. And then I decided that what I wanted to do is to make these books readable. So what I teach people is in my books, big ones and small ones, is how to think and act like Muhammad and how to understand what's in the Quran. Most people, when they read the Quran as Americans, go, oh, they don't really believe that. Well, they do believe that. What do they call themselves? They call themselves the believers. So anyway, I wanted to make this. The other thing is I was driven by fear, because the more I studied Islam, the more I realized it had our ethical basis in the Western world, and I'll include India in this, is some version of the golden rule. That is, treat your neighbor well as you would be treated. Some version of that. So that's our ethical principle. That's a cornerstone of our civilization. And I include Hindus along with Jews and Christians, and even atheists who want to treat others well as they would be treated. But there's also one other thing. The intellectual foundation of our civilization is critical thought, scientific thought. And in Islam, that is not allowed, because all the answers have to come from Quran and Sunnah. So therefore, the mind of Islam is quite small. So that's the reason that as they influence us more and more in America, we see our rights slipping away, because one of the rights that we have is freedom of speech. But under Sharia, there is no freedom of speech. Anything that you say about a Muslim he doesn't like is basically blasphemy. So that's how I got started. That's the reason I decided to write books. And by the way, I wrote big books at first, and then I was doing some lobbying at the Nashville here, and at the legislature. And I realized that I wanted something for the legislators to read on Sharia, but there was no way they were going to read a big book. So I decided to write a book that was 1/8 of 1 inch thick. I don't know how to express that in metric, but it basically was very thin. The reason is I wanted it to seduce the reader. That is, I could read a book this small. I sold tens of thousands of those books called Sharia Law for Non-Muslims. So that's how I got in the book business, and why I got in the book business, and why I consider Islam to be such a drastic threat. There is no bridge between Islam and our country. Now, I have some friends who are atheists, and they think, well, that doesn't matter to me because I don't have any religion. What they don't realize here is that atheists are the worst enemy of Islam, except perhaps apostates. And by the way, let me say that I honor and praise you as being an apostate, because it takes courage. Those who have not studied Islam do not realize how hard it is to leave Islam. So once again, I want to praise you and say that you're one of society's heroes.
Thank you, sir. Especially when I left Islam, even some of my old friends, they wanted to kill me because they believe that it's written in Sunan Nasai, Hadith 4063, that whoever changes his religion, he should be killed. Even it is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 6922, that Ali, who was the fourth Caliph, he burned few atheists in his
Yes.
lifetime. And Ibn Abbas got angry with him. He said that punishing someone with fire is only right of Allah. Muhammad said that if anyone left his religion, then it should be killed. So you should not, you should just kill them, but you should not burn them alive. So you see that according to Islam, people should be killed. Even so many people were leaving Islam when Muhammad died. And in Sunan Nasai, Hadith 3974, Abu Bakr tell uh, his follower that I should take some people along with me, and I should kill those people. So Umar got angry that you are killing your own people. So Abu Bakr said, yeah, because I heard Holy Prophet saying that I am commanded to kill or fight until people didn't accept that there is only one God and it is only Allah, and I am his messenger. So those people were forcibly converted later back into Islam, and some of them were killed. So this is the reality of this religion. And I would like to thank Shiv Kumar for becoming member of my channel and supporting me. So,
By the
sir,
way,
how do you
let me say one more thing. You've also given a bad insight, not a good insight into the nature of Islam. Jihad is to be practiced until all the world says the Shahada, that is, becomes Muslim. This means that our wars with Islam will never cease. They're never going to stop until Islam is defeated. And there's two ways to defeat. One is militarily, which I don't think is the right way to do it, and the other is ideologically. That's when I'm very much a scholar. And it turns out that until the 20th century, no one had really challenged Islam. And the only people who knew about Islam were scholars. So now that this is a change that we have now. For the first time in human history, anybody, a bus driver, a plumber, a college professor, can pick up the Quran and read it because it has now been made readable. You can pick up the life of Muhammad and read it. It's been made readable. So now then it is impossible for the first time in history for the common man to understand the true nature of Islam. And that's a very important thing in our favor. But the war will never cease as long as Islam exists. It's not a matter of our foreign policy. It's not a matter of how pleasing them. You can please Muslims as much as you wish, but in the end, jihad is there. And we also need to throw something else in here. I went through and counted up. There are 13 verses in the Quran which says that a Muslim is never the true friend of a kafir. And a kafir, as you know, is an unbeliever.
Yes, sir. Even in Tafsir ibn Kasir, the commentary of ibn Kasir, it is mentioned that even if you shake your hand with any non-Muslim, you should wash it.
Well, that's true. I understand that in Arabic, they don't usually say kafir, but they say kafir hajis, that is filthy kafir. And who says that I'm filthy? Allah says I'm filthy. Allah says that I'm unclean, that I'm lower than an animal, that I'm despised. I was made to burn in hell. So when you read about what it says about yourself in Islam, and by the way, one of the things that I did was, in America, we have a very strong constitutional protection of religion. I have no question about the religion at all of Islam. I don't care at all one thing one way or another about it. But one of the things that struck me when I read it, and I've read, by the way, many sacred texts, both in Hinduism, the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, in Buddhism, the sutras, in the Torah for the Jews. I read all kinds of religious texts. But Islam is unique, absolutely unique, because its doctrine concerns itself mainly with me, the kafir. And there's more about the kafir. 51% of a Quran, Surah, Hadith is about the kafir. I call that part about the kafir as political Islam because it's not religious Islam. Let me make a distinction here. In Europe, it's quite common on Friday for the Muslims to commandeer the street and do prayers. You say, well, it's their religion, they have to pray. Praying is religious. Commandeering the street is not religious, it's a political action. That is, if I go out and try to stop the traffic, I'll be arrested. So we need to distinguish between religious Islam and political Islam. But the political Islam is about us, and I have no interest in the religion. I have no interest in the heaven or hell.
In fact, sir, it is impossible to reform Islam. The only way to reform Islam is to get rid of it, because it is mentioned in Sunan Abi Dawud, Hadith 3512 and Hadith 4031, that if any one of you try to copy people of any other nation or try to copy their way or try to imitate them, is not from us. He's from them, or he's one of them. So Muslim cannot imitate any other nation. There's no way to reform Islam. If you are trying to add anything into this religion, it's not Islam anymore. If trying to remove anything from this religion, then it's not Islam anymore. So it is impossible to reform this cult, and there is no way to reform it. The only way to reform it is to get rid of it.
Unfortunately, you're quite correct, because the Quran is perfect. It's complete. It's universal. So if you take something out of the Quran, it's no longer perfect. If you add something to it, it's no longer perfect. And by the way, a moderate Muslim is simply someone that does not practice all of Islam. And a so-called extremist Muslim is actually normal Muslim, and they practice all of Islam. I find that when I listen to the jihadis talk, they know their doctrine very well, and they agree with it. And they also will tell you it cannot be reformed. Because why? It is perfect as it is. It was perfect in the 7th century, it's perfect now. And so there's no way to modify it. And the so-called moderate Muslims just choose not to practice the jihad part.
And so many strange things are in this religion which are against humanity. Like in Ibn Majah, there is a hadith 2839, that Ibn Abbas told that Sa bin Jashama said to Holy Prophet that when we attack polytheists at night and their women or children are killed, so are we doing something that is right? So Muhammad said, yet it is good because they are from among them. So he is actually telling people that if you are killing these innocent people, it's correct. It's also mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, Hadith 3012. Saab bin Jasham, it is narrated by Saab bin Jashama. The Prophet passed by me at the place called Al Abwa or Vadan, and was asked whether it was permissible to attack pagan warriors at night with the probability of exposing their women and children to danger. The Prophet replied, their women and children are from them. I also heard the Prophet saying, the institution of Hima is invalid except for Allah and His apostles. So here Muhammad is telling that they are from among them, so it is permissible to attack them. And this can't be the nature of a prophet. Means he's nothing but a warlord, thirsty for money and for women.
Yes, this is true. The part about women is an interesting subject to talk about in Islam. Muslims say that Islam is the first ideology or religion to give women their rights. Well, it gives, in Islam, the woman has the right to be beaten, to be a child bride, to be divorced by the triple talaq. I divorce you, I divorce you, I divorce you. It's can be beaten. So the rights that Islam gives women are terrible. As a matter of fact, why don't we talk about wife beating? You know, in the Quran, it's Surah 434, I believe. Can you quote it? When
Yes,
it talks
it's
about,
in Quran. Yes, it's Quran in Surah Al-Nisa, that is chapter 4, and it's verse 34, that it's told that if your wives are not obedient, then you should keep them away from your bed. And still, if they are not listening to you, then you should beat them. So that and even there's it's also in Quran, Surah Sad, chapter 38, verse 44, that Prophet Job is being God is commanding him to beat his wife. That, oh Job, take some bushes in your hand and beat your wife and do not break your oath. So according to some Islamic tradition, Prophet Job, he takes an oath that when I'm healthy again from my sickness, I'm gonna beat my wife. So when he's healthy, he decide that I will not beat my wife. So God is telling him in the Quran that you should not break your oath. You should beat her by taking some bushes in your hand. So this is the nature of God. He wants women to get beaten. They, in according to Quran, Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse 11, they have half inheritance as men. In Quran, chapter 4, verse 24, men could have sex with the sex slaves, women which they capture in wars. Uh, and then, according to Quran, chapter 2, verse 228, men are in authority over women. So, this religion tells that women are nothing, but even their testimony is half, and they have brain deficiency. According to Bukhari, Hadith 2655, it says that Muhammad is saying that isn't the testimony or confession of a woman is half as compared to men. That is the disadvantage of deficiency of women brain. or of a female brain. So he's actually making fun of women, and there are so many things which we could keep on going on. According to Sunan Abi Dawud, Hadith 2155, uh, it is mentioned that companions actually attacked a few people of Banu Mustalik, and they captured a few women. They captured a few women as war captives, and they wanted to have sex with them. But companions were confused that these women are already married, so how we could have sex with them when their husbands are alive and their pagan husbands are still alive. So then this verse of Quran, chapter 4, verse 24, was revealed, that married women are forbidden unto you, but except those whom your right hand possessed. So, according to Islam, it is also mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, Hadith 7099, that never will succeed such a nation that makes a woman their ruler. So, women can't be ruler. You could beat them. Uh, so many hadiths told that they are not allowed to go out. Even they have to go through halala if they want to marry their husband back. As mentioned in Sahih Bukhari Hadith 5825, that narrated by Ikrama. Rifa, one of the companion of Muhammad, he divorced his wife, and later her wife got married with Abdurrahman bin Zubair al-Qurazi. So Aisha said that a lady came to him wearing green veil and complained, and she complained Aisha that how her husband beat her. So Aisha told Muhammad that I have never seen any women suffering such as this believing woman. Believing woman. Look at her skin. Her skin is greener than her clothes. To Abdurrahman heard that his wife has gone to Muhammad. He came with his two sons from another wife. She said, "By Allah, by Allah, I have done nothing. Uh, and this man is important, and I want to go back to my previous husband." Then Abdurrahman bin Zubair said that, "O Prophet, by Allah, I am not an impotent. In fact, I rub her like I have sex with her like people rub two leather together." And she just wanted to go back to her previous husband, Rifa. That's why she is fighting with me. So Muhammad told that if you want to go back to your previous husband Rifa, you cannot go to your previous husband until Abdul Rahman had sexual intercourse with you, and until he is not satisfied with you physically, until he is not satisfied properly. And Muhammad said that these two boys looks like you, so you can't be impotent. They resemble as a son of a crow resemble its father. So you see how cheap this prophet is. Means instead of punishing that man, that why you beat your wife, he is telling that woman that you cannot go back to your previous husband until he properly tastes you, or until he is not sexually satisfied with you. And this is a strange prophet, uh, strange prophet, and women has no right. They even have no right to give divorce to their husband, and they are sexually exploited in the name of halala, which is also proven by this hadith. You cannot go back to your previous husband until he had intercourse with you, and until he is not properly satisfied with you. And this verse came for the commentary of Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 230, that if someone divorces his wife, she cannot return back to her previous husband until she is married to someone else. And if that man also divorced this woman, then there is no problem if they both reunite, if she reunite with her first husband. So uh, people still believe in this cult in this 21st century. How you see this exploitation of women?
By the way, There's also a short hadith which says, Muhammad said, never ask a man why he beats his wife. And something else. People ask me sometimes, well, what is a good translation? And one of the things I tell them is, go to Quran 434, the wife beating surah verse. And if it says beat lightly, the translation, don't use it. If it says beat, then perhaps the translation is a good one. Because I found that when you read people talk about it, well, it all depends on how you interpret it. Well, the main thing about the interpretation is, does it admit the existence of jihad or not? And does it admit things like wife beating? If it does, because the ones that are so-called better Qurans, all they've done is they say beat lightly, for instance, or some other such thing that people. That is, does the Quran and the life of Muhammad give you the real picture of the brutality of Islam? Because it is truly towards women in particular. By the way, let me play a scientist here for one moment. We're talking about women in the scriptures. There's something I like to do. I like to count verses because there are some good things that is in the Quran about women. For instance, it says 5% of the verses in the Quran say that a woman has high status because she is a mother. There's 23% of the words that deal with women in the Quran are that they're equal on Judgment Day, the man and the woman. Now, here's the deal. On Judgment Day, that there are man and woman, they're judged on what they do. One of the things the woman is judged on is she's a wife and how well does she treat her husband. Then the other 71% of the words in the Quran about women subjugate her. And I'll give you as an example, I had two daughters. My wife breastfed both of them. According to the Quran, I, the husband, should be able to tell her when to stop nursing. Well, why would I talk to a woman who's nursing a child and tell her when she should start talking or not, or stop nursing or not? This is subjugation of the woman. Now, it turns out I was raised by two women, my mother and my grandmother, and I'm very sensitive to these issues. And Islam is cruel to the woman, but Islamic women just point to the fact that they're equal on Judgment Day and point to the fact that they're praised as mothers and say, see, Islam is good. But when you look at it all, most of the woman is subjugated.
I sometimes see those verses which were praising women. Actually, those verses for just to impress Christian in the beginning of Islam. And these verses for me feels like a butcher feeding a goat or sheep with some leaves and with water, and the goat is thinking that this butcher is so good, he's feeding me with food and water, and but the intention of butcher is pretty different. So I don't think that there is anything good in Islam.
Well, I try to give it every advantage I can. And even when I do that, it doesn't matter. Islam, I mean, I would be horrified if one of my daughters married or granddaughters married a Muslim, because, and you know, in a marriage that deals with a Muslim male, the Muslim male can marry a Christian or a Jewish woman, but a Christian man cannot marry a Muslim woman because the man is supposed to be superior, and a Muslim should never be under the judgment of a kafir.
Yeah, and that's what I call love jihad. Means a
Right.
Muslim man is allowed to marry a Jewish girl, a Christian girl, but Jewish boys or
What will the
Christian
children
boys
be?
or and yeah, and the children have to follow the religion of their father. So this is what I call love jihad according to Quran.
This is true.
So, what do you think? What is the future of this world, and how we should counter this religion to protect our society? Else, freedom of expression will be a myth in future if Islam will keep on growing, and this is the greatest threat for human race.
I agree with you completely. There are two ways to fight Islam. We tried it in Afghanistan just using bullets and bombs. But in 20 years in Afghanistan, our generals never, ever, ever read anything about the doctrine of jihad, the Quranic doctrine of war. So they fought a war against an enemy they refused to recognize. Let me give you an example. There were 18 generals in 20 years in Afghanistan. One of them, Stanley McChrystal, wrote an article, a paper actually, that was a strategic view of Islam and how to win, a strategic view of Afghanistan and how to win the war. There were three words that did not occur in his document: jihad, Muslim, and Islam. So in other words, we fought for 20 years and never understood who our enemy was. Not one. So what the real war needs to be fought is ideological, not with bullets and bombs. And what I think is that my answer to your question as to what to do about Islam is to teach as many people as possible what Islam really is, not the fairy sugar-coated version of Islam, but the real Islam, with the Islam that you and I are talking about today. This needs to be known. Women, for instance, in the West and in Europe and anywhere else need to start standing up for women who are being abused in Islam. Different priests, rabbis, and preachers need to talk about the evil that is within Islam. Because here's what I've discovered. Once people truly understand the nature of Islam and truly understand what it says, they don't want it anymore. So it's an ideological war we have to fight. It's a war of doctrines. And do not believe that there's some compromise, because you and I have already been over this. There is no compromise between calling me a filthy kafir and a brother. I'm either one or the other. Now, a Muslim is a brother to another Muslim, but I am never their friend. Why? Not because of me, but because of the Quran. So I see this as a war of words and a war of ideas and ideologies. And that's my answer to the question. Is that once we introduce the true knowledge of what Islam really is, people don't want it anymore. Look at yourself. You tried Islam, and once you really begin to understand it, you left it. And that's one of the things that needs to happen. By the way, I don't deal with religion, but a man from Australia came by to visit me. He's a Baptist minister. He has converted 2,400 Muslims to Christianity. And how does he do it? He teaches them who Muhammad was, and he teaches them what's in the Quran. So I think that truth and facts is our best weapon here. It's the only weapon I know how to use. I'm too old to fight with a gun, and besides that, it's not my nature. But I will debate anyone. I used to do it before the COVID virus problem. I used to do a lot of public speaking, and I always loved it when Muslims would come to my talks and ask me questions. I remember one time one of the Muslims said, "Well, you don't speak Arabic, so you can't really understand Islam." I said, "Well, first off, Islam is supposed to be universal, which means it can be expressed in all languages. But I said, I give you a challenge right now. You say that I do not understand. I challenge you to show me the verse I cannot explain to you. I challenge you to show me the hadith that I cannot explain to you. And I challenge you to show me one chapter of the Sirah, the biography of Muhammad, that I cannot understand. Do it now. Challenge you." Well, he just sat down and shut up. So that's what I like best. I always enjoyed it when Muslims would come to my talks.
Yeah, means Islam is pretty dangerous. What Muhammad do with Abi Sarah, what Muhammad do with Abu Nufail, what he do with Asma bint Marwan. Even when a person killed when a blind person killed his slave, Muhammad Muhammad actually agreed with his action that if she was insulting me, then it's okay to kill her, in Sunan Nasai Hadith 4075 and 4361. And this is the strange nature of the Prophet. Even women in Islam are not allowed to go out from their home. Means according to Sahih Muslim Hadith 2236A, according to international numbering, it is Hadith 2236, and according to Sunan Abi Dawud, this Hadith is on Hadith 5257. That Abu al-Salib, he visited the house of Abu Sa'id Khudri, and he saw one snake in his house. So he was going to kill that snake, but Abu Sa'id Khudri stopped him and tell him to sit down. And he told him that once a boy used to live there, uh, and there were and he newly got married, and he asked Muhammad that I want to go and meet my wife. But when he returned back, Muhammad allowed him that okay, you could meet your wife. And when he saw his wife standing at the door of the house, when he pointed to her with the lens, she said, "Do not make hassle till you see what has brought me out." He entered the house and found an ugly snake there, and that snake bite that guy, and he died because of the snake bite. But he was going to kill his wife because she were out from her house. So even the ISIS give on the basis of this hadith, which come in Sahih Muslim and Sunan Abi Dawud, ISIS give a fatwa that women are not allowed to go out from their home, and they should be put to death or they should be killed if they are going out without any male company like their husband or their father. They are not allowed to go out. Or if their husband is not there, there should be at least two male with them, like father and brother, or two brother. There should be two male company with women. So women has no freedom. They can't even breathe because of this religion. And I request our viewers, if you have any question, you could ask it through super chat. If you want to ask any question to Bill Warner, and we will end the stream within next 10 minutes. It will not be that long. And I love short streams, and Bill Warner also love short streams. We don't talk for hours. And we could do a second stream if we want to talk more on this topic or on any other topic, but this stream will be just 45 minutes long. Okay, sir, over to you.
Well, I'm sitting here trying to decide what to talk about. There's so many things to deal with Islam, but we also need to deal with us, the kafir. One of the things that I see kafirs do a lot is they are easily discouraged, and they speak and they don't have good morale. And so what I encourage is all those who are not Muslims who want to oppose Islam to adopt a attitude of positiveness, because Islam can be defeated. Remember, I just told you about the Baptist minister who's converted 2,400. All we need to do is to have an optimism that what we're doing is exactly the right thing. It is not right to sit around and watch your civilization be destroyed. It is not right to sit around and try to and conduct yourself politically in such a way that more and more Muslims will be powerful in the United States. For an example, in the United States, every time a Muslim runs for office, there should be many people there with brochures and signs and questions, because they try to deplatform us, that is, to take away our ability to be heard. But in a political campaign, you can always be heard. So we should have the optimism to go out and face Muslim candidates who are running for office. And basically, the Muslim would know that every time he shows up to give a political speech, those people are going to be there asking tough questions. So we need to have a good morale and seek every opportunity we can to combat Islam, instead of sit around and worrying about it. Worry never accomplishes anything. We need to be warriors, not worriers. Does that come across? We need to be fighters, not warrior, well, I got confused. But anyway, we need to be optimistic and be a fighter to protect our civilization. And because it is the purpose of Islam to take away our civilization, to have it to be Sharia. And so anyone who knows much about the Sharia knows that it's a terrible law to live under. First off, in the Sharia, as a kafir, I'm actually supposed to be a dhimmi. That is, I'm supposed to be subjugated and pay special taxes, and I can be humiliated. It's interesting. But in Islam, you're supposed to treat a slave well, but you're not supposed to humiliate him. But the kafir, who is a dhimmi, it can be humiliated. So we need to fight it in all ways that we can because it's an important battle. As a matter of fact, I say the most important question of the 21st century is, what is the true nature of Islam and what are we going to do about it? Well, the way it works is I've discovered again and again that if you know a lot about Islam, Muslims don't want you to talk about it in public. So we need to be fighters, because look at it this way: who's going to do the job for us? Our law enforcement's not going to do it. The military's not going to do it. The universities have already become in bed with Islam. So we need to be fighters and fight it in every way that we can with optimism, because we stand for our civilization based on the golden rule, doing to others as you would have them do unto you, and critical thought, scientific thought, and rational thought is superior to the Islamic world of how you're treated depends on who you are, whether you're a Kafir or a Muslim. So we have a superior civilization, but we must fight to defend our civilization because it's under attack, and unfortunately our leaders are compromised.
Yes, sir. Even all hadith, everything in Islam is even all prophecies are about war, like people rising by holding black flags and conquering Al-Aqsa Mosque or conquering Jerusalem. Hadith about Ghazwa Hind. All hadiths, everything in Islam is actually provoking terrorism. They like hadith of Ghazwa Hind in Sunan Nasai, hadith 3177. Even there are so many hadiths that people Muslim will fight with Turks, and there are other hadiths like uh, about Mujaddad, that in every century God raised a Mujaddid, like Sunan Abi Dawud hadith 4291 and Musnad al-Hakim hadith 247. In the end or in the beginning of every century, a Mujaddid came with who awakened whole ummah. Awaking for what? Awaking for jihad. So in Sunan ibn Majah, there's a hadith that shows that Muslim used to convert people forcibly. That hadith is 3929. Uh, it is narrated Amr bin al-As from his father that we were sitting with the Prophet, and he was narrating to us and reminding us when a man came and spoke privately to him. He said, "Take him away." Muhammad said, uh,
Sorry about that.
okay, so Muhammad told that take him away and kill him. When the man turned away, the messenger of Allah called him back and said, "Do you bear witness that none has right to be worshipped but Allah?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Then go and let him go, for I have been commanded to fight people until they say La ilaha illallah, means there is no God but Allah. Then, if they do that, their blood and wealth are forbidden to me." So Muhammad is telling that if people accept La ilaha illallah, I will not kill them. Their wealth and their life are forbidden unto me. But this means that this man should have been killed if he would not been accepting Islam. And there are so many hadiths like Sahih Muslim hadith 4519. Ibn On reported that I wrote to Nafi a letter from him inquiring him uh, what how to say it, inquiring from him whether it was necessary to extend to the disbeliever an invitation to accept Islam before meeting them in fight. Then Nafi wrote to me that it was necessary in the early days of Islam, not now. The messenger of Allah made a raid upon Banu Mustalik while they were unaware, and their cattle were having a drink at the water. He he killed those who fought and imprisoned others on that very day. He captured Juwayriya bint Haris. So this hadith shows that Muhammad attacked people when they are sleeping, when they are not prepared. And this hadith shows that Muslims used to warn non-Muslim that they should accept Islam. They used to invite people before attacking them in the early days of Islam. Then they simply attack them and kill all of them, and they imprison them. They don't take jizya from them. So Sayyid Qutb, who is a pretty extremist Muslim scholar, and Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, Anwar al-Awlaki, all extremist Muslims follow him after his death, and all love his translation and his commentary of Quran, known as In the Shade of Quran. Everyone loves him, and that person was so extremist that he told that now you don't need to take jizya from disbeliever, and when the Jesus will descend back, he will not take jizya. He will simply kill every disbeliever. So jizya for early period when Muhammad was not powerful with army, and with followers of Islam, but now when Muslims are high, when they are huge in number, then you don't have to take jizya. You simply have to kill them. So this is the cruel nature of Islam. So we didn't receive any questions, sir. So we will end the stream. Over to you. We already reach to our time limit, but if you want to say anything, you could say a few last word, and we will end the stream.
Well, I would say this: if you're interested in who I am and what books I've written, I have a website, politicalislam.com. It has videos, newsletters, books. So if you want to know more about me, go to my website, politicalislam.com. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
Bye bye.